You'll also notice a few high-profile debates are missing from that list. Here to discuss that is Betsy Russell of the Idaho Press and president of the Idaho Press Club. The Idaho Press Club has long been a partner in the Idaho debates with Idaho Public Television and several other nonpartisan entities in the state. So I just want to acknowledge, for transparency's sake, straight away that Betsy and I work together to put these debates on the air.
That's right, and we are not the only ones. Our other partners in the debates, in addition to the Idaho Press Club and Idaho Public Television, include the League of Women Voters of Idaho and all three of Idaho's public state universities.
So on Friday, we got news that Representative Priscilla Giddings is dropping out of the lieutenant governor debate.
Right, and what was unusual about this is there have sometimes been candidates who just didn't want to debate, but in this case, this candidate had committed to the debate. Both candidates had committed, Representative Giddings and House Speaker Scott Bedke, and this was the Friday before the debate. It's on Monday. It was scheduled for Monday night at 8 o'clock, and she backed out on Friday. And her reason for backing out was that she objected to the entire format of the debate, essentially. She wanted to handpick or have approval of which reporters would be allowed on to serve on the panel to ask questions. And frankly, that's not how the Idaho debates work. The Idaho Press Club selects the reporters, Idaho Public Television provides a moderator and broadcasts it statewide. It is not a hand-selected querying by a panel that's picked because they're going to send softballs. It's just a general open exchange. And so Representative Giddings said if she didn't have veto power in advance and approval of the list of reporters, she was going to pull out. And she didn't get that, and no candidate has ever had that. And so she backed out the Friday before the debate. Speaker Bedke was more than willing to debate and expressed quite a bit of disappointment that he will not get that opportunity to debate his opponent.
And Speaker Bedke didn't have any prerequisites for his willingness to debate. He was ready to show up and be questioned by whichever reporters the Idaho Press Club had selected.
That's correct.
And to be clear, Representative Giddings' concerns were that the reporters selected by the Idaho Press Club would be biased against her.
That's right. And she even at one point named specific reporters she was concerned about. They weren't even the ones on the panel, but that didn't matter. Her campaign has made some statements that all reporters are biased or that all reporters affiliated with the Idaho Press Club are biased. The Idaho Press Club is just the Association of Working Journalists in Idaho from all media, newspaper, radio, TV. We've been around for more than 4 decades. We're not biased. We include people of all stripes. The one thing we have in common is we are news reporters, and that's our job.
And I wanted to bring up the Congressional District 2 race. Mike Simpson is seeking another term in office. He also declined to debate, but for very different reasons than Representative Giddings.
That's right. So Congressman Simpson has debated on the Idaho debates multiple times before and is well familiar with the format, had absolutely no objections to the format or anything about it other than, in this case, what his campaign said was he did not want to debate his challenger this time in the primary, Brian Smith. And interestingly, Brian Smith challenged Representative Simpson before, 8 years ago, and the two of them debated in the Idaho debates on Idaho Public Television. But this time around, Simpson's campaign said that they believe that Idaho doesn't need to hear any more from Brian Smith, and that's why he didn't want to debate him on statewide live TV. Well, generally, it's not candidates who make that decision about their opponents, whether Idaho should hear from them or not. But as a result, we do not have a debate in the 2nd Congressional District. There were only those 2 candidates who had qualified for the debate, and you can't have a debate with just one candidate and no one for them to debate.
And Brian Smith was very motivated to debate. He, from where I was sitting in my part of the planning process, was very responsive to all of the letters and emails that we sent him. And so a very different situation than what we saw in the Lieutenant Governor campaign. Yeah. And that's a very active race, too, with both candidates running hard.
That's right. In fact, I did a story in the Idaho Press earlier this week that The two candidates had become engaged in kind of a who's the Trumpiest contest between Brian Smith's TV ads and Congressman Simpson's campaign mailers, each saying that they were more supportive of President Trump and the other was insufficiently supportive of President Trump, which kind of gives you a flavor perhaps of how that primary race is playing out. It is a very active campaign. It's too bad for the voters that there's not an open debate that everybody can watch.
And there is still one debate that we are missing from the schedule right now. And to be clear, before we get to that, we send out invitations to submit materials for consideration for our debates for all candidates who have a challenged primary. And so not all races have candidates who submit materials, and we can't have debates with just one candidate. Not all candidates qualify based on our objective criteria, and some candidates we just never hear from.
That's right, and we certainly can't drag them off the street and force them to debate if they don't want to.
Right, exactly. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about why are there no Democratic debates on the primary schedule. That's the reason why. Either we didn't hear from the candidates or they didn't qualify.
The races were unopposed.
Or the races were unopposed, exactly. The highest profile race that we do not have on our schedule is the GOP gubernatorial debate. And as of 1:30 on Friday, when you and I are having this conversation, we still have not heard from the Governor Little campaign over whether or not he'll even debate in the first place.
That's right. And this debate, of course, has been tentatively on our schedule all along. We are hopeful of hearing from the governor's campaign momentarily. We had initially set a deadline of last Friday. Their campaign said they had to wait until this Friday. We're still waiting. I asked midday, are we going to know soon? And was told that they would decide by the end of the day today.
And I know that our friends at KTVB are in the same holding pattern, that they don't have a confirmed debate either. And to be clear, both Janice McGeachin and Ed Humphreys are once again highly motivated to debate and have been responsive to all of our queries that we have sent out.
That's right. And there is a certain advantage to a challenger, particularly against a strong incumbent, to getting to debate because they get to be kind of on the same level as the incumbent, which there are a few other platforms in which they are, but there are some. And so incumbents in some ways take a risk by debating their challengers, but that has always been the case. And in Idaho, incumbents have always wanted to take that risk in order to make their case to the voters of Idaho as to why they should be reelected rather than one of their challengers elected in their place. And in fact, no incumbent governor seeking reelection in Idaho has ever declined to participate in the Idaho debates in the last 3 decades.
So if he were to turn down this opportunity to address the voters of Idaho on a statewide platform, it would certainly be unprecedented.
It would be
for our modern
historic.
time.
Yeah.
Turning from the election to state governing, speaking of Janice McGeachin, her budget made news this week.
That's right, once again, or I guess we should say lack of budget. The lieutenant governor has overspent her office budget, in part because she had a judgment against her in a lawsuit from, full disclosure here again, the Idaho Press Club over failing to release public records. And the Idaho Press Club brought that lawsuit on behalf of reporters from multiple news organizations who had the same issue. The Press Club won. The judge fined the lieutenant governor and ordered her to pay the other side's attorney's fees, which she did. But as a result, her office budget, which is quite small, was short. And she requested a supplemental appropriation to add more state general funds to her budget to cover that. But the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee never acted on it. And she has just proceeded along. She has now run into a point where her budget is in the red. And this week, the Idaho Capital Sun reported that the State Division of Financial Management had set a deadline for her to submit a plan to deal with this shortfall because state law forbids spending any money that hasn't been appropriated. And initially, she missed the deadline. Then she responded and said, oh, just withhold my salary. But there are a lot more questions. She may have to pay for her health benefits or give up her health coverage. All of her staff is already gone. It's not clear whether her office budget can even cover vendor payments for the rest of the year.
And the fiscal year runs until the end of June. The new one starts on July 1st.
That's correct.
On a different topic, there is new news on the abortion lawsuit. It was stayed late last Friday, but it wasn't stayed on the merits of the law itself.
That's right. So the Idaho Supreme Court issued an order staying the law from taking effect while it is being challenged. But that is a procedural thing. And part of the reason for that is that the plaintiffs, Planned Parenthood, had requested an expedited schedule for this case to have it move very, very quickly. And because the law was scheduled to take effect, I believe it's coming right up, April 22nd.
April 22nd,
and
right.
The Attorney General's office argued that the schedule, the briefing schedule that the court set, was far too speedy to allow them to mount an adequate defense of this state law, which they wanted to do. And so they asked for more time. And so what the court ended up doing was saying, okay, we'll allow more time, but we will stay the effect while we proceed on this. And then there has been some back and forth about that, because that led to Blaine Conzatti from the Family Policy Institute, the group that actually promoted and advanced this bill this year, charging initially that the governor's office had cut a deal with Planned Parenthood to put the law on hold, and the governor's office said that was false. And basically there's a lot more nuance to it than that.
And that was the Attorney General's office, not the governor's office.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say governor? Yes, that was the Attorney General's office. And so it was a procedural matter, but the merits of this bill have not yet been addressed by the Idaho Supreme Court, and they will be addressed in briefings that are filed, and possibly, we don't know yet, in oral arguments.
As a side note on the merits of the case and also the Attorney General's role in this, it made news that there were questions as to whether this law would be unconstitutional, with some who are pro-life, who are anti-abortion, saying we don't know about the novel enforcement mechanism of this particular law and whether it will stand up in court. But the Attorney General is charged with defending state law, even if he thinks that it might not meet constitutional muster.
That's right. And the Attorney General, I think, worked closely with the sponsors of the bill, trying to get it to meet constitutional muster. And that's really the purpose of Attorney General opinions that are issued during the legislative session, is to work with legislators to make sure that their bills are crafted in a way that makes them defensible, because that's the job of the Attorney General. But I think the most high-profile pro-life person who raised that issue was the governor, Brad Little, who in his transmittal letter for signing the bill said that he feared that it would soon be found both unwise and unconstitutional. Nevertheless, he signed it into law, basically on the basis of ideology and pro-life beliefs. But that could potentially mean danger in a court challenge.
Well, and I am sure that how the Attorney General incumbent and his challengers would handle such cases will come up in Tuesday's debate. Betsy Russell of the Idaho Press and president of the Idaho Press Club, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Melissa.